You're going to call us racist? You're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs? Fuck you. War.
You put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Let's shoot. Hadi.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world, and there is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were all meant to shine, just as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
All right. There we go. I want to welcome everybody. This is a really special night that we have going tonight, and we have Dr. Scott Young in, and we're going to be talking all things Nesara and Gesara. And before we do that, I would like to go ahead and pray over this broadcast before we actually get started. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for tonight. I thank you that you're always working in all of our behalfs. And Lord, I just thank you for your discernment, your covering. And Lord, I just ask for your hedge of protection around each and every one of us tonight in this call as we go forward, and that you are always working for the best of all of us. And we just thank you for it. We call forth it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So with that, I want to welcome Dr. Scott Young. He's been somebody that I've wanted to have on the show for some time now, and that we could actually begin to have some talks about Nesara and Gesara. And Dr. Scott, you want to kind of open up with how you got started and all this, and the whole bit.
Well, I'll do my little kind of spiel if you don't mind, and then kind of tell you how I do stuff. When I study things, I started studying like end time issues when I was 16, and I would read every single book that I could possibly come up with. And I would go to the bookstore and I'll take those. And then I'd read every single one of them. And it didn't matter what it was on. And then I would read all the little scriptures behind it. And then in college, I started learning, well, maybe I should start reading the whole Bible. So I went through from beginning to end. And then, that was way before you had read through the Bible in a year. And then and after a while, I'd have read every position, every circumstance. And, they had these Bible studies where you would, you had to read the dumb book. And then I was like, no, why don't we just get into Thessalonians or whatever? And, first or second Thessalonians. And I would just go verse by verse. But I would take that kind of research teaching approach to it. Right. And I would do that with apologetics. And I would do that with a lot of different research studies. But I started to kind of awaken, as we would call it, in 93, because, I looked at JFK things and I didn't believe any of it. 93, I'm looking at this going, doesn't make any bit of sense. How do you have a magic bullet and goes like this? And, I'm opposite eye dominant. So I have dyslexia. Most people don't know that about me. I have a stuttering disorder. And if you get me in and I'm getting real, frustrated or something like that, if you say things like spit it out, it kind of pisses me off. So that about me. So what happens is that, I remember, shooting right-handed and I'm doing this and I didn't understand. And my dad was like, why don't you just, flip it around? And I kind of shot this way. I was like, oh, wow, I can shoot better. And I think very, very differently than most people do, which is nutty for that. And so I kind of pull aside things very weirdly. And my wife, we're almost 30 years tomorrow. So she sees how I pull out stuff and how I kind of take it apart. Realize one thing that's fascinating, that the I can't remember the Warren Commission in 1968 has so many holes in it that the CIA has to create this idiotic statement of the conspiracy theory, because they didn't even know how to deal with us. So they just said, well, you're just an idiot conspiracy theorist. And I'm like, well, that is the basis for authority-based logic. And this is the thing that I want you guys to first do. And I hear this, number one, and when I started getting into this particular movement about 3 years ago, I started really, understanding how I had to answer questions. And I answer questions and they start saying, well, what kind of doctor are you? I just love it. It's actually fun for me because I go back to them on this one point, because what they're trying to do is trying to destroy my credibility. And I go,
Yep.
I go, listen, and I had a professor in college who was a PhD professor, and he was a garbage man when he was going through his PhD. And very few students would he let him. I got to call him Norm. And so I would say, I always bring this up. If I bring you truth and I'm a garbage man, does it not make it true? And they go, and I'm like, I just destroyed you, so, well, and not because I'm trying to destroy you, but here's the thing. Logic has its own reward, and it comes from research. So, you guys need to research. Don't just believe Kyle because, he's a captain, okay, or he's got this kind of, stuff. Take what he's talking about. And does he have holes in his understanding? Of course he does, and I do too. So we all take what we're talking about and put it in your own understanding, put it together, and don't just take what we have, but put it together, because you need to research this just as well. So I started to have a problem within my practice back in 2009, where we were, and I'm an audiologist, and so we were 90% debt to income ratio. I had a partner who was an unrepentant alcoholic. I mean, he was really difficult to be around. So we had to delete him out of the practice. And he was a wonderful guy. He'd give the shirt off his back for you, but he couldn't be in the practice, and he was falling apart. So Wendy comes into the practice, we're turning it over, working 100-hour weeks. Excuse me. And as we're going through that, what we started to meet with is this guy, and it was just back in 2011, and Will was this unassuming guy, just kind of hunched over like this. And he would talk to us, and he would talk to me more specifically about his situations. And he was talking to me about these anti-cabal guys. And I'm going, who? The what? What are they? I don't even know what a cabal is. I mean, and then he was talking to me all this other stuff. And I'm going, I don't get it. And again, he was just going on and on about this stuff. And I had no idea what he was talking about. And then I was reading books that he would make me read about Jesuits, and I was understanding stuff that he was talking about. He was talking about Mike Pence was a pedo, and I'm like, he's a what? And I mean, again, I didn't. He would throw me pieces of information, and he would make me research. See, that's the powerful point. And I think that's the key element. Now, one of the keys that he was doing is that he was talking about a gold-backed currency when no one was talking about Nesara. And I remember going to him and asking this one point, why are you talking about a gold-backed currency? Don't we have the Fed over here? Because if you've ever read one of the seminal pieces of information called The Creature at Jekyll Island, it's a powerful piece of information I'll reference here in a second. It talks about how the Fed works, and everyone loves the Fed. It's the gorgeous thing. It's the thing that you snuggle up with at night. And the reality is the Fed is the sicko circumstance that we're really dealing with here. It's the evil. It's like in Scripture where Timothy talks about where the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Well, I could just say, and I'm not trying to mess with Scripture here, but I could say the Fed is the root of all kinds of evil. That's really another way of putting it in another sense with that. But I want to kind of fast forward because I don't want to do what I was talking about with Mark Z on the other night, because some of the people kind of saw it with that. But I want to hit you with my son's an MBA. Okay, he just got his MBA, he's kind of working with us on some other issues. But I want you to kind of think on some interesting conversations of too big to fail. Go in to 2008 and 2009. At that time frame, we have the financial crisis and the housing market is going to hell in a handbasket, right? So what's going on behind the scenes is we think that the markets have propped up the derivatives. So I want you just to basically understand that what they were trying to do is sell these arms. Okay, so you had a 5-year arm, and I remember hearing about it. I mean, Wendy and I were hearing about this in 2000 or something like that. And you had a 5-year arm, and you only had to pay interest. And I was like, what happens after the 5th year? And, you're going to buy a new house, and you'll be all good. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Don't you, but you'll buy a new house, and you'll have more money. And I was going, something doesn't feel right about this. And I didn't know what I was talking about. Dude, Kyle, I'm going, I don't get this. And Wendy and I looked at each other. We were hearing from the Spirit of God. You have no idea. And I remember that conversation with the guy. It wasn't, we moved away from Denver in 2004. All of our friends were dying on the vine because all the houses in Denver were going underneath. And they just walked away from the houses. I mean, people in all the cities were noticing the same thing. And it was all because of those derivative points that out there. But and that's what we want to focus on. That's not the reality. What the too big to fail thing will tell you, and this is in the book that I talked about, Revelations of the Red Pill. Okay, one of the few people have written 2 books on Nesara. One is Nesara and the Mark of the Beast, and Revelations of the Red Pill. But they tell you, the SEC and all the idiots that want to give you this information, is that maybe $250 billion come to the banks, and they show it to you that they're reluctantly taking the money.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, do I really have to take that cash? Oh, okay. And supposedly they pay it all back.
Not in the least.
Yeah, right. And here's what they also don't know. At the same time, the Fed takes over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Really important. Those are financial vehicles of mortgage companies. Okay. So those are inside of the Fed. Okay. Now, and they supposedly pay them all back. And that's what the SEC tells you. Lie. This is where I started to hear this one story. Do you know that the anti-cabal, the white hats that you would talk about them, the Dragon family, and Kyle knows some of the same story with this, they brought in $83 trillion to pay off the debts of America.
Mm-hmm.
Pause for a second. It came in through the fiat currency, through the Fed. The cabal held it. They gave it to all of their friends. And they said, we'll give it back to you if you'll just back Hillary. No, remember, this is 2009, right? And you're going, why would they be talking about, they just had Obama in place because the whole point was to have Obama and then Hillary. I'm glad we can talk about this on an open kind of channel with this. This is kind of fun. And so they wanted to have this whole plan in place. Now, what I was talking to my friend Will is as they were talking about they said, well, we'll give it back to you if you'll just allow it to happen. And again, I'm hearing this back in 2011. And I'm like, well, what did you guys do? And they said, well, we were building these bank accounts through Arizona. I'm like, why is Arizona involved? And they were building these bank accounts for humanitarian funds and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I had no idea what he was talking about. And they were talking about how the IRS wasn't going to be there anymore. And he was making me build, account. And I'm not an accountant, so I don't even play one on TV. And so I'm like, I'm building these accounting stuff and without any profit and loss stuff, like on the bottom of it, without the EBITDA stuff. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, all the time I had no idea what I was doing. But God was preparing me for this day. He's prepared me for such a time as this. And so I'm so grateful for him. He passed on, I was with him in October of 2000. He was terrified of heaven, or 2020, excuse me. He was terrified of heaven. And I got to spend a lot of time with him. And it was like, Will, heaven is going to be an awesome place for you. You don't understand. And the reality is he's okay, man. He's so happy in heaven. I wish he was here to see some of this stuff, but he's watching it from a different vantage point with that. But the reality, guys, is we're about ready to see that situation is the quantum financial system's initiation point. Yeah. It had to create something unique and different, so that what you can have done is to be taken out of the systems so that you can be sovereign. And so that's where I want to pause and, let you jump in there with that too. So.
No, you're absolutely correct with everything that you're talking about there. And, I got caught up in that whole thing with the way that the housing market was all doing their little thing. Before that, I never have ever came across what's called a predatory lender. And that's what they were doing in 2008, 9, 10, and 11 was stealing people's houses all over the country for what they set up for, what you were talking about in the beginning, where, oh, you'll just be fine. And then most people ended up bailing because they could not afford the things that they were putting them into, right? And so basically, I had a home improvement loan because I'd already paid my house off to begin with. And it was a part of just a small little lender, American General, which was a subsidiary of AIG, which AIG went bankrupt, right? And so when AIG went bankrupt, then so did American General. And so I had no place to pay my note for over 8 months. All of a sudden I get mail from a mortgage company saying that they bought my note and that I am now actually default on my note, and that because I hadn't paid in 8 months. And so by law, they were absolutely correct. I hadn't made a payment because of that. And under the note in which they bought, that's a part of the clause that if you're late by 3 months, they can exercise the full payment in full, right? And I was like, no, sorry, that ain't going to happen. And so I called my attorney, got a hold of an attorney, and he said, don't worry about it. You can just refinance. Well, what had happened is they actually started to put all that information out on my credit report that I was default by 8 months. And so nobody would lend to me no matter how much I owed or what the value of my home or any of that stuff, because basically.
And they take your credit too at that point.
Yes. And so they just hammered everything. And so they did all this on purpose, right? And so basically my option is to file Chapter 13 and get the bank involved with the federal government on the federal bankruptcy stay, and then let the bankruptcy deal with it, right? And I just paid them and they paid it off and so on and so forth. But the deal is they never wanted that money, the interest or anything like that. Yep. Within 3 months after going into bankruptcy, they sold the note to a company that actually wanted that, because they never wanted it. That's not what they were doing. And so that was my first experience with what they were talking about with these predatory lenders and stuff, right? And most people didn't have the options that I'd had with going that direction, right? Because it's very difficult to go through a bankruptcy like that and to pay it off. 90% of the people don't make it to the end because it's very difficult, because you got to pay everything off in 5 years, right? And so it means everything. And so I went through the process, and that was really my first real initiation into how corrupt that financial world was back in 2008, 2009, when most people were losing everything because of it, right? And so what people don't grasp is that what just happened with Evergrande, the mortgage company, and they own 90% of all the mortgages in all of China. And they went bankrupt. They were delisted. And not only do they own that, but they're heavily invested in BlackRock and everything else. And that if that doesn't tell you that they're propping all this up falsely, I don't know what does, because that was like the major leagues compared to what happened in 2008 and 2009.
Oh,
and
way worse.
you don't see any of it happening. I mean, you see it, but you don't see like all of the fallout that happened back then, right? That's what they're falsely propping up right now to have this crash of the petrodollar completely worldwide. And so that's pretty much where we're heading with this whole situation that we're on right now.
And I think one of the keys, I get this question all the time, and I kind of want to address it, if you don't mind. I jump in and hit it, because I get this question all the time, because they're going, okay, even if I believe everything that Kyle's saying, okay, but why would the rich, I mean, these ultra powerful rich people really allow this to happen? I mean, how would they allow this to happen? And I kind of explain it like this. So here's what's happened. In 63. Well, let me go backward in time. Lincoln comes into office, and Civil War's over. During the Civil War, he creates the greenback dollar, pisses them off like nobody's business. That is a governmental dollar. And we still use that greenback term to this day. They kill him after the war. They kill the killers as well, assassinate the killers. Perfect military conversation. Okay. Why would you kill him? Why would you kill him after the war? It's because it was more than, just the hatred of North and South. You go to 63 with JFK. Why? Because he was saying we're going to go on to the silver standard, and I want to take out this secret group. He was talking about the cabal.
Yeah.
When we go into 9/11, why did they do all that stuff? Because America was in bankruptcy, and we were in a bankruptcy state. And Poppy Bush killed off the Nesara Code. And see, the anti-cabal and the cabal were going together, and they were going to work together to make this thing happen and make it legal. And the cabal said, no, we're not going to do that. And we're going to kill 4,000 people in a second. And then we're going to go off and just do every war we can come up with, and kill tens of thousands of people. And we're just going to pillage everywhere we go. And knowing that the next bankruptcy was going to be 2020. So they had to come in, and they tried to come in with another way of shoving in the dollars in 2008. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Now what they've done is we're going to go, and no one's going to know about it. We're going to shove in a QFS, and we're going to shove it right right between their teeth, and we're going to rip their teeth out, in essence. We're going to do it legally through the executive orders of 13818, crimes against humanity. We're going to block your property. Now, here's what you guys have got to see. This is why I believe the EBS is super, super powerful. When we show off the EBS and we show their crimes against humanity, all the gross things, all the disgusting, all the frauds, all the stuff that happens, America goes, oh, they're the sickos. Here's what I struggled with, because when you read the Executive Order 13818, it says like you can't move the money, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. It's like 6 or 8 different ways of shoving the money around. And I remember asking these people, I asked everyone, I'm like, What do you mean block the property? I mean, if the guy's got a property on Manhattan, why can't he buy something in, Puxatawny or whatever? I don't pick the place, And what it meant is a bankruptcy. I just want you to stick with that for a second. It was a bankruptcy event. And I keep going to this point. If you were going to have a war, if you knew this was going to be a war, you would have brought in like a General Flynn, right? Or whatever, some guy that was a general dude, okay? You would have brought in someone else, but they brought in Donald Trump, a guy who's been outside of the bankruptcy and inside of a bankruptcy system, who's never been in the cabal, but knows what bankruptcy is. And he knows exactly how to take out an economic system and bring it inside the systems. Now, he obviously has a whole bunch of white hat military people behind him. And that's the Q team. Okay.
Yeah.
But he also has the anti-cabal, who's got more money than you can possibly come up with. And so I've thought about this 100 ways, and I've asked this question. Sorry, I'm hitting the microphone. I've asked this question: how do you, excuse me? How do you take out the very rich people? Well, we already have the answers. What you do is, so you got the guy at the very top. So this is the guy at the very top. And normally the guy at the very top doesn't even have anything, but he doesn't even wipe his own butt. So he's got a butt wiper underneath him, right? Coming to America, Eddie Murphy. So what happens is he's got lawyers and all these other people and accountants and bookkeepers and all these other things. So what you do is you just kind of wipe out layers underneath him, and you wash them out. And then you wash out different levels of them, and then you kind of insert other layers of this. Now, some of you guys might be upset with this dude, but chill out for half a second. Juan O'Savin, over a year and a half ago, actually gave you guys the clue of this. He said that Biden was, first off, and we know this, Biden is the dumbest idiot of anyone you could have brought in, but he actually put in the idiots of the cabinet you could ever come up with. And do you guys know that no president has ever been fifth in New Hampshire and won a presidency? I mean, that should be like the first issue. And back in 2020, I'm an audiologist. Listen, I'm an expert, a not perfect expert, okay, but an expert in understanding when patients have dementia, okay? There's normally 5 to 7 stages, depending on who you listen to, for stages of dementia. And I had said he's got stage 2 dementia. I was roasted on an open fire, okay? And I mean, because he has all the classic phases of stage 2 dementia. And people thought I was a complete moron. He's 100% playing that thing. It's an actor. Of course it is. I've got cut-ups, and so does Kyle, of all the idiot stuff that he's doing. And it was trying to wake people up, and they wouldn't even listen to it. I mean, what you're seeing is CGI and actors and masks, and go watch movies. The movies have shown all this stuff. What they've done is they've slotted in the idiots. And I made this story before, so I'm sorry to do this on you here with it. But I wish I could remember her name. She's some Congress, whatever, parliamentary, idiot down in Australia. She's a physician. And she loves her masks. Now, by the way, any person who is a physician, a healthcare worker who's been trained to be in surgery knows that a mask is a spit shield. Sorry, it's a spit shield. It's never meant to stop a virus. In the history of the world, it's never done it. Okay? Trust me, no one ever does it. Okay, So she is pushing her mask thing in Australia, right? And I'm talking. I asked two different PAs, so just a personal assistants, right? And I caught like 16 different pictures of her. She's up there like this and like this with and she's got no mask on over and over again at all these different meetings. And I'm going, how could that ever happen? It's because they took all the smart people away from these idiots. And we're roasting them on an open fire, in essence. See, you guys feel like that. How could they let this thing happen? How would they let it? They got no one left. They're having to wipe their own butt. That's the key element that's happening. And here's the thing. So we've taken out so many layers that you got nothing else left. And it's like a house of cards. It's like you're playing Bajinga. Is that what's that game? Is that what it is? Kelly, did I say it right? Oh, she didn't know. She's not there. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about, the little game where you pull out.
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute myself. Yes, it is called that.
But, you get the game idea with this. I mean, that's what we're doing. And as we see that situation, they're just pulling out those little things. But there's a military side. See, there's a financial and there's a military side. And that's where people like Captain Kyle have that side, that military side of what we're trying to accomplish there too. So I'll pause there as well and let you jump in.
Yeah, it's so funny because so much of the things that are going on around the world is they are showing you the plans that they had in place, and they excel them to such a degree so quickly that they couldn't be hidden anymore. And people, even your most normal people right now, are going, what in the hell is going on? They don't understand what's going on, right? And so it's a means of exposing that 16-year plan that they had to bring in the Agenda 2020 and then Agenda 3030 or 2030, right? And they're just pushing it so quickly, and they're using these so-called idiots to pull this off right in front of the public. And they're doing it even though people are upset. They're going through a lot of difficulties and they're going through the pains and so on and so forth. This has to leave a lasting impression upon people that it never happens again, right? They have done so many horrific things through the past that they, over time, just basically sweep back under the carpet. This can't be that. It has to be an oppression that goes for generations to generations to generations. And right now, this is actually touching your children and all the way up to seniors. There is no in between. And like even like 9/11, most of the people that was influenced on around the world was even your kids didn't really understand what was going on with that, and they still didn't. But they are getting to experience this firsthand by the mask and the school and all of the idiocracy that they're having to go through. And it is leaving that impression on that younger generation of this crap that they're having to go through. And it's all by design so that this never, ever allowed to creep back into society again. And one thing that you talked about earlier is that people have to learn how to self-governance and to be a actual sovereign. And people don't know how to become a sovereign and what that entails on being someone that governs your own self and does no harm, and what that means, and to do that in a means of government as well, and that we elect a small amount of government so that they can actually be for the governed, right? And that is us, that are allowing them to speak for us. And that is a role that has to have consequences to it if they do not fulfill the things in which they say. And right now, there are no consequences for that, as history had told, right? It's always been there to tell us what to do and so on and so forth, but not really. But in reality, that's really the way it is. And they showed that through what they pulled with all of these mandates and everything else from this COVID crap, right? And the thing with that is that mandates are a suggestion of a government for you to comply by. It is not a legality whatsoever behind it. It is not a law. They don't have the ability to create those laws.
Let me throw into that one because, you know, I'm a business owner and I had a conversation with a consulting firm that I was working with. Okay. And they were talking about vaccines. Okay. And again, they were totally unawakened. So just get me when you kind of catch this. And so I'm not trying to wake them up on this thing. And frankly, they're scared of me. This group of people are totally scared of me, and they're in Portland. So you kind of get that. And I said, okay, do you guys know what the difference between a mandate and a law is? And they were like, no. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys, anyone have to know what the difference is. And I said, a law goes through a Congress, a Senate, to a president, gets signed in, or it's in a state, and you got to go through the House, the Senate, and, you know, the governor kind of thing, right? He goes, oh, okay. And I said, a mandate is a policy procedure manual, okay? So if I make everyone wear a sweater at the office, that's like a mandate. As long as I'm not asking them to do something crazy, you know, I mean, as long as it's a sweater and it's like, here's the, you know, little thing. Hey, or I have a little logo kind of thing. You know, it's not illegal. It's okay. That's mandate. Now, here's the thing. There are dozens of examples that we're not hearing about, including a guy up in Canada who put the mandate to a test, and the dude just wiped out this mandate. He threw out a mass mandate, wiped out the whole area for mandates because the judge sided with him on this point. The thing is that I said, listen, if we had if I can't say to my people where they can go get their toe jam fixed, then I can't tell anyone where to get the vaccine. And if anyone has a problem with their vaccine problem, or, you know, if they have a vaccine reaction, then who are they going to come back to if they have a vaccine reaction? And I am not going to put myself in line for that. I don't care what you agree or disagree with that. And that is the way to put yourself out there. And they go, oh my God, that's a great point. And that's how you talk to people about this stuff. Because when you kind of use it on that thing, the legality of it, they go, oh, wow. And see, that's the kind of stuff I like doing. But you can't do that if you haven't trained yourself to do that. I mean, Scripture says always have an answer for what you believe. And that's really having, you know, learning a little bit about this stuff. So
you're right.
Point that comes out of there. And I'm going to tell you, there's some reading that you guys, excuse me, that you need to do. There's a book by Rodney Howard Brown. And you can get the audio book. It's a little bit better as an audio book because it's a 1,000-page book. Killing of Uncle Sam. Okay. Killing of Uncle Sam by Rodney Howard Brown. He's a pastor in Pensacola down there, I think it is, or could be wrong, but down in Florida with that. And
it's Brownsville.
Yeah, Brownsville there. Thank you. And I'm telling you what, kick butt. You will learn so much stuff about history that you never knew that you thought. I mean, I've listened to it twice. It's just unbelievable good stuff. And that dude's so awakened, you know, with this. And that's the kind of stuff that we need to learn about with this. So, and I want to do something else with you is contract law, if you don't mind, if you don't mind me doing that one with you.
No, that's good.
Okay, let's just say Kelly is our title agent. Okay, and let's say Kyle is is the buyer of a house, and I'm the bank. Okay, so Kyle wants to buy the house, and I'm the bank, and great. So he comes into the title company, Kelly, and signs all the documentation. One of the things that we find about the documentation is Kelly is trained in how to do this. And you're going to see in the documentation, as he signs this, there's these big old nasty capital letters. Now, interesting dude that's totally nutty when you interact with him, but Russell J. Gould understood that the quantum information in there, and he understood the quantum grammar in there, capital letters calls you a dead agent. So when they sign that information, and this is what they killed off Kyle on, figuratively, is that they called him a dead agent. So they didn't have to listen to anything he did. That's how they do this. So what they did is that they have all these capital letters in there. And so they did this with him. And here's the thing. They violated the contract law because Kelly isn't the bank. She has no banking abilities in there. She's just an idiot title person. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you idiot, Kelly. But you are, and you're the title person.
I don't want to be the bad guy, though.
Well, you're not the bad guy. You have to be. Someone's got to be the bad guy in this thing. Okay, so I'm the banker, and I just get to sit back and laugh at you two signing contracts, and I know that it's an illegal contract.
Yes, it is.
Here's the thing. They have told you got to pay your debts. And I'm going, but they never pay their debts. They never pay their debts. How many times have you done anything to pay the debts for the Ukrainian war or all the stupid stuff at the Fed? The $31 trillion over there. Did you do anything? Did you get it? Did you get an extra toolkit for that? I mean, come on, guys. When you buy a house, if you do the math on that, and by the way, I have to have a calculator on my iPad just to figure out, compound interest. When you do that kind of thing on there, it's like 2.5 times when you do a 30-year fixed loan. I mean, you have to pay 2.5 times the house of that. And here's the thing. This is why I know we're close, guys. I have people who, if guys who have 800 credit, now 850 is a top end credit, 800 credit, and I have dozens of examples of this, that are getting 7%, 8% loans. 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, they were getting 2.5%, 3.5% loans for the same thing. That means they're paying double for a car or a house what they were doing before. Guess what they're doing? And by the way, there's car industry people that are doing the same thing. Do you know the car industry is freaking out right now? That they have these car industry and the car will go to auction. The bank wants to sell it, and then they go, nope, no sale. So then they run that car in, and they're going with more and more stock, and they can't sell them, and they don't want to take a loss, and so they have just more and more stock of stuff that they can't afford, and the losses are going higher and higher. No one's buying anything anymore. We're having. Do you know that the Fed bankers, those 13 Fed bankers, are at an absolute loss rate now? They've never been at a loss before. Even in all of the bankruptcy phases of all the history of the world, they've never been at one. The white hats are killing them. They're driving them into utter despair. Listen, I'm just some idiot on the web, okay? I'm some dummy that they should care less about. I wrote this Revelations of the Red Pill, right? And I was talking about the Titanic. Now, I mean, they're not just dealing with me. The Titanic. Now, remember, that's 110 years ago. Do you know that if you go on and look at the web searches right now, there are probably 5 new articles of QAnon, conspiracy theories about Titanic and all the things that are about that. Why would they care about what we think about the Titanic? It's because they're losing. They're losing, and they're having to put. It's like they're in a house. And I heard this by a firefighter, so I'm not a firefighter, and I don't play one on TV again. But It's they're in a house and they're past Flashpoint, and they just keep pouring on more stuff on this house, but there's no way it's coming down no matter what happens. That's where they are right now. And the reality is this thing's coming down. But you guys got to see that the Great Reset, the whole thing, the Biden stuff, all this stuff is you're just watching the fire, and you should be going, I feel warm inside. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
I know it's frustrating, but can I tell you something? And I'm going to be right here in just a little bit because I haven't seen the first paychecks coming out. But do you know that in the last, I think it's been 3 years since Trump is out of office. Do you know that your tax rates for income tax have not gone up? Okay, let me give you a weird story here. When Obama got in office from Bush, your tax rates every year would go up in January. I tracked them because I'm a business owner. I watched all that stuff. Okay. When Trump got in office, every year they started dropping down. My younger sister, a real left-leaning financier, totally nutty. Okay. She was like, yeah, but people are mad because they're not getting as much tax refund. And I'm like, they're getting more back every single month. I mean, just do the math. Come on. And so but here's the thing. If the left is in charge, if they're really in charge, how come they're not making you pay a lot more in income tax every single paycheck?
Yeah.
I mean, you are paying it at the pump. You are, but that's the petrodollar.
Yeah. It's got to be squeezed. It's got to be squeezed.
There's a squeeze point here. So that's happening with that too. So anyway, yeah. I'm telling you, this thing is coming down and there's nothing they can do about it. I'm telling you. There's
so much more to all this that the Fed was also, consumed into the Treasury in 2020. It was under the emergency use authorization. Trump brought it in under the COVID. And so that, that whole situation, and there's open source information that's out there that can be completely, sourced to find that exactly happened, right? And so if that's the case, then the Fed and the IRS, which is the actual collection department for the Fed, which is arm. Yeah, and they're both all they were is actual corporations that were both set up in Puerto Rico next door to each other. And so both of those have been brought into the Treasury Department. That's a part of the People's House. It's all being corrected, people. And so this whole system that is being shown to you, that's what people have to understand, is it's all being shown to you so it can all crash and show you for what it really was truly meant for. And that was to destroy humanity. Right. But it goes all the way back to when the Fed actually came into place. And that's like the Titanic. And what we're talking about here is that same time of the Fed becoming an actual central bank for the United States. The Fed, that word itself there's nothing federal about it. It's a central bank that is a part of the 13 families, or was actually, but not anymore. That whole system itself has to implode upon itself under the weight of the fiat system so that people can see it actually implode. And that's what we're watching right now, is the imploding of that fiat system upon itself. So it cannot be able to be revived. And so when we talk about the bankruptcy, Donald Trump was the executor of the bankruptcy. And we're in receivership right now of that bankruptcy that we're going through. And so we are all a part of watching this be turned over to the American public, because that's what's actually happening. And when Donald Trump came into office, he basically said this was not another 4-year election. This is about turning power back over to the people. And it was exactly that. And so for them to turn power back over to you guys, we have to understand what that power actually is and what they stole from us, and to become sovereign people again, so that we can be that self-governing body that we're meant to be, and to be know how that the system works, right? And so all these things that are taking place, you're learning about Congress, you're learning about the Constitution, and you're learning about all of these things that they have displayed for you in this crazy cockamamie story that's been out there on purpose for people to become educated on how this system actually works. And that's what's actually happening, right? And we have to go back all the way to 1871 for the undoing of the corporation. That corporation was bankrupted in 2020. It was expunged. And so we have to understand that there was no law that was actually a law that was enacted after 1871. There is only 10 actual amendments. All the amendments after that were under the corporation. The Supreme Court said that the corporation cannot enact laws. All they can act is procedures and policies. And so that's all they've done. It's just like all of your states, all of your cities, they're all incorporated. They have a police force. This police force is a policy enforcing division of the corporation. That's what they are. Running a stop sign is a policy enforcement situation. It's not breaking the law. There is no law for running a stop sign. Sorry, people, but this is what you're going to have to start to understand. It is about policing and governing your own self going forward. That they've implemented all these things to be able to tax the poor when otherwise they would not be taxed. That's actually how it's actually stated in that system, right? And so this whole thing is being undone right before our eyes. They're having to actually undo all of those policies since 1871, all the way up to now, but to backstop it in a way that the system itself does not go into chaos and complete utter destruction. So we are watching them systematically taking down and dismantling the old system and backstopping it with the new. And the new is the beginning of this whole thing. And the quantum financial system is so intricate in that because it releases us from that debt slavery system that they've put over us all. And when they actually bring that to pass, that is going to be the start of our recovery period on becoming a sovereign, as well as being able to rebuild our nation and the world back to the way that it's supposed to be, as all the countries are supposed to be sovereign and will be under actual Gesara itself. So Nesara itself was birthed out of the finding out of the corruption of the banking system that the farmers won back in the 90s. And that whole system found that the contracts were all illegal. Everything was illegal, and that they won. And that was where the initiation of Nesara came from, and was being enacted in 2001 with basically it was supposed to be announced the day of 9/11. And so that morning it was being announced that Nesara was taking place. And we all know that for them to stop that, what they had to do is that false flag of 9/11. And that was when they actually declared war on not only the United States people, but they declared war on the entire world. And that's whenever they went out and began basically strong arming everything. And this is when they screwed up, is because they started making all of these presidential acts, the Patriot Act and everything else, to come after all the people, but they also empowered the presidential office beyond all kinds of crazy measures. And so when Donald Trump took office, they never thought Hillary was going to lose, ever. And so when she lost, because the military got involved to the point that they stopped enough cheating that he could win, because that's what they did. They didn't put him in by, any kind of trickery or anything else. They just stopped enough cheating that he could actually win and win legitimately.
Do you know how they did that too? And I remember hearing some of this conversation, and I had to research this a little bit, but I
didn't know
remember
how.
hearing Tori says, hacker, real heavy hacker, had mentioned that, you know, she was part of those hackers. What they did is they went through the Dominion machines and they unhooked the internet connection to it. And I was like, what? In 2016? I remember my wife and I just went to bed. We were like, man, whatever. She's going to win, you know. And I had to like look that one up, because when I heard that, I don't remember, 2018, whatever time frame it was, that she kind of said that, or maybe it's 2020 or whatever. I had to really check that one out. That's exactly what they did.
Because what they were using is hammer and scorecard to manipulate the controls, but it had to be connected for them to be able to do that. And so when they separated the connection or blocked the connections for them being able to use it, it didn't work. And then when it didn't work in those areas, he won like he was supposed to.
Yep. And that's why this it's so amazing that idiot won 302 and Trump won 302 in his election. So it's just telling you guys,
and from his basement, and where he never got out of his basement. Now, come on, people.
And again, you know, you got Carrie Lake going the same kind of silliness here. You know, it tells you, and I will tell you, you know, same kind of conversation that came up as well. Those Dominion machines in 32 different, 32 different states. Isn't it 32? Am I wrong?
It's somewhere in that market.
Somewhere in that range. Okay. But those 30-something states that have the Dominion machines have not been calibrated since 2017, which means the 2018, 2020, 2022 elections and every other little tiny election in the middle of it are invalid. That means everyone in Congress, everyone in Senate, everyone in presidency, and almost all the little, you know, mayors and city councils and school boards and all, they're all invalid. And that's why the gorgeous part of the, you know, the Brunson case is so beautiful, because and you're going, but it didn't happen. Calm down, guys. It was not time. They're trying to show you how they're going to show you on the back end. Military's always been the only way.
Yeah, and they're in control 100%, people.
But they're trying to show you. Here's what's going to happen. When this comes out on the military side, it's going to be like, I mean, it is not going to be, people want to say drip, 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 drip. We're seeing the drip, drip, drip. So we're going, okay, military is in control. When it comes out, there's no way to stop it. It's going to be like the Hoover Dam, and when it breaks, it'll flush over the side, and then so much stuff is happening. The people, okay, if you're not awake, you'll be like at the bottom of the Hoover Dam going, dude, I don't know what's happening here, right? But everyone else, like, we're awakened, and we're standing at the top of the Hoover Dam and going, oh, yeah, I see it. Oh yeah, I see that. And I always say this to you guys too. You are awakened. You are awakened, maybe, to be a state senator. Maybe you were to be a senator. Maybe you're supposed to be a school board member. Maybe you're awakened. I mean, Kyle is supposed to be doing some education stuff. I mean, God's doing this with me. Yeah, he just started like blowing up my channel. Like I can't even tell you. I know that's I'm a teacher. That's my thing. You know, I mean, not teacher in schools, but teacher in this way.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, God, do what God is telling you to do. Ask him. Spend time figuring out why you've been awakened right now with that.
That's what I tell them so much is that God woke you up for a purpose. You may not know what it is right now, but he's preparing you for what's to come. And whenever time comes that he taps you on the shoulder and says, all right, it's time for you to go in, are you going to be ready? And
right.
we're supposed to really, and I told Kelly this well into over a year, almost 2 years ago, is that a lot of the waking up of the circle of influence that we had was very limited on purpose, and that basically it was time for us to begin to prepare ourselves for what's to come. And that means spiritually prepare ourselves for the walk and the journey that we're taking by ourselves, because that's what we were doing, as well as preparing information for people. So just like you said a while ago, when people want the answer, then you're going to be able to show it to them. Right. And you're going to be able to provide that information to them, right? And so when these events take place, that's going to be the shaking that wakes these individuals up, because they're so cognitive dissonant on where they're at right now with not understanding what's going on, that it shakes their fundamental values of who they are. So they're not going to accept it until they're completely broken from it. And once they get broken, then they're going to want to know the information that you were trying to provide to them. And at that point, that's whenever, through love, they're going to be accepting anything that you have to tell them, because they're going to be hungry for the truth, because that's what it's going to do.
Totally right.
So there's so much that we don't know our future as far as what your future entails, because you never know. And like I said myself, I never know, but I just know that I'm trying to feel what God wants me to be doing right now to help people to prepare. And what's up next, that's his call. And I'm just ready for it, because I know he showed it to me. He showed me the other side. He showed me a lot of different things. And I've tried to find out exactly how we're going to transition through this. And it's like, his is for you to experience just like everybody else. And that's exactly correct.
Right.
And so, I'm having to experience this just like everybody else as well, right? And it's a beautiful thing if you're looking at it as that experience that we're going through, because this is a experience, in my opinion, that is going to separate time, just as Christ separated time in the past. Yep. This is not the same thing, but it is a completely new thing that is also something that is basically going to be referenced in the future, as in when we went from BC to AD, and from before whatever to whenever, right? And so it's going to be something that, this is where we're at right now, people. And it's a beautiful thing that we're in. And yes, it is a difficult path that we're all having to take.
I think of it like, and I use this, and I'm a military buff. I mean, that's just my thing, so I always go back to this, and some people hate it when I say it. But I use this as an example. D-Day was the most planned thing in the history of military battles. They got things wrong. They didn't understand the hedgerows of France. So they really didn't understand what the heck was over there in that part. But they had planned that thing down to tiny little details of timing. But I didn't understand until about 5 or 7 years ago that they had turned every single agent to a double agent. And they told, and here's the thing that we're struggling with here, okay? When Kyle or I get information, sometimes we get disinformation. What the heck is that? It's like information we think is right, and we put it out there, and we're like, oh, crud, it was wrong. Sometimes, the White Hats are telling us something, or we hear something, and we think it's right. And forgive us, okay? Because we didn't try to lie to you. We're not lying to you. Oh, man. People hate my guts. I've never asked a dime from you.
I've never either, and I never will.
I know they do, and they hate your guts too. And I'm going, guys, calm down, okay? So, and I'm sorry, but sometimes we have disinformation. I've said something wrong, or I've misunderstood something. I have a guy that called me up. He goes, "Oh my God, now you understand Gesara," and I'm like, I always did. And he was like, and I was like, but I didn't understand this little part. And he goes, now you got to come on my show. And I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, but there's misinformation. Now, what misinformation is, what we might say a white hat might say to a black hat. Okay, that is bad information. And let me give you an example of misinformation. Misinformation was they were going to come in from the Pas de Calais, which is the smallest route from England to France. Okay, instead of where they really wanted them to come in is in the Normandy battle kind of scene. And they kept the panzers in the Pas de Calais for 3 weeks after the most massive, influx of men and machines ever. And that's because the misinformation was so powerful with this. And this is why you guys think you're upset about that you haven't seen it happen. And I mean, I get this all the time on my channels. I mean, I try to respond to every single response out there. I try. The cabal is freaking out. They don't know what to say. They're like, wait a second. We got to answer these claims about from 1912. They got to write an article about this thing about the Titanic. Why? It's because they are so freaking out. They have to spin their wheels and make an article and put it up there and put it out there. And they have to buy ad space on the web too. And one of the things I'll end with this little part, and you can do whatever you want to do. But I just want to throw this out here. Is one of the things I think is going to be fascinating with the QFS is the bots. Elon's kind of pushing this one out for us. Is when we see, I deal with pay-per-click, which is PPC, pay-per-click, and SEO, search engine optimization. In my territory, in the Tulsa area where my business is, we should be number 2 in every single search engine. Doesn't matter what happens. As long as they do, a couple different types, we should be number 2. We don't show up on sometimes in the search engines. It's because they get some, online place that comes in and does this. It's because they put filters on top of the search engines. They put bots out there. They do all these other little things. When the QFS comes in, we believe that they're going to wash these systems off.
I lost you.
Sorry,
Yeah, Dr. Scott.
There we go.
Sorry about that. When you see, sorry about that, I pushed away. When you see the bots getting taken off by the QFS, it's going to take the filters and all the bots off there. So fascinatingly, you're going to see all that stuff just wash away, and you're going to go, wow, I can see the search. There's going to be so many crazy little things that you're going to find out. It's going to be fun. So.
Kyle, can I just ask if y'all can, for people that are just coming here, they don't know what Nesara Gesara is. So they're just coming here. They're coming to find out what it is. Can you briefly go over that for those people?
Okay, so let's do a very, very short response between that. So the cabal, the bad boys, they want this thing called the Great Reset. Great Reset is the digital currency. It's everything of the World Economic Forum. It's all the stupid fiat currency. It's everything that they want to do to screw you. Okay? Nesara, National Economic Stabilization and Reformation Act. Okay? That's for America. Gesara, the global stuff. And what this is sovereign for each single nation. Okay? So Iraq is going to have their own stuff. It's going to be a physical currency and a digital currency that is gold backed or precious metal backed. Okay, we heard Zimbabwe is like 75% to diamonds and 25% to gold. Real interesting conversation just came out. But they're going to be sovereign in and of themselves. They're going to have their own currency. They're going to have their own decentralized QFS, and their people are going to be on it, and they're going to have their own quantum voting system, so they can vote their own people in, and they're going to have their own common law, and so they're going to be decentralized from anyone else, and so they're going to have their own power and their own capability. Which one would you rather be on?
Yeah, so Dr.
No,
Scott,
absolutely.
The word decentralized is really, really important in this whole conversation for a lot of people to understand, because they're afraid of it being New World Order or something that would control you. But that is centralized. That's actually what we have now. They are controlling you now through a centralized system.
Right,
Everything
and that's what
yes.
central banking systems means. Centralized, kind of thing. That's great point here.
It's actually digitized right now as well. And if they wanted to cut you off, all they got to do is push a couple buttons and you're off. They've done it. If you've ever gone to have your ATM card or whatever, and they put a fraud alert on it and they shut it down, that's exactly the same thing. You have no access to anything unless they turn it back on. And this has been going on for at least 15 years that they've had that kind of, control over your money. And so the whole point of scaring people, because that's what they do, they get scared because it's digital and so on, but you're already on that. You've been on it for a long time, but this is a part of separating it away from the bankers to where they do not have control over you anymore. They do not have that kind of authority to actually turn you off. You don't need them anymore. You can actually go and do I could do a financial exchange with you right now for any amount of money, and it could be instantaneous to where I could have it directly to you within 1 second and we're done deal, without having to actually go to the bank itself.
Here's a checkbook, right? On your checkbook, look at your bottom of your checkbook. First set of on your checkbook, you got the first thing is a routing number. Okay.
That's
the second one is your account number, and the third one is like your check number, right? And it's digitized. Okay. So when you see that, okay. They will tell you what routing number means is like the address of that bank.
That's correct.
Okay. You're like, well, wait a second. Wait a second. And by the way, this has happened to anyone. If you've ever had like a hospital and an insurance issue going on. Okay. And like your insurance calls you up and goes, I don't know what hospital you were at. You're going, okay. It was at St. Francis at this address, blah, 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 right? And here's my account number and here's my name, right? So you give them permission to go, oh, okay, so go over there. And that's where my stuff is, right? And so every other place in the history of the world and every location is identified with an account number of the person, and an address, correct?
Yeah.
Everyone. And by the way, in my own systems for my patients, they have, we look them up by telephone number, name. We have a little account number kind of thing, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
How come banks have account numbers and routing numbers? Do you know why? Because the routing number is the connection to the Fed. Whoop. Here's the other thing. Every single time you make a payment by check, by credit card, by online payment, the Fed knows every single transaction you do. And I've had this been told to me by many more bankers. Now, here's what happened to me. Now, I'm not famous, but I keep saying this. I got people like telling me stuff that I was going, why are you telling me this? Here's what happened. They go, bankers were telling me, like, do you know that even if we keep the loan in-house and we get Scott to sign up with that loan, we have to file it with the Fed. Like, why do you have to file with the Fed? He's like, this is what you have to do. They don't have any control over this. They don't have any ability to do this. Here's the thing. Every single transaction has to be filed with the Fed. When I laughed my butt off when I heard that the IRS was going to check on $600 of everything that they were doing. I'm like, they already do it. Every single transaction you ever do is already with them. Here's what happens. The QFS is going to move Kelly out of the systems, and they're not going to find her.
That's right.
And they're going to go, we don't know how to find her. Where is she?
And only I have the keys to my house.
And
That's
she's
right.
Only I do.
Oops, and they can't find her. And so when they and they're going to poke around, and there's this thing called piercing the corporate veil. It is a way that we actually do when we create these things like S corporations and LLCs. We actually do this with 501c3s and all these other little corporate things. It's to protect the individual from potential lawsuits, right? Kelly, and it's going to be so simple, it's not even funny. Kelly will then have the ability to go with her quantum financial system. She'll go, and she'll go right in, and she'll be able to do it. But they won't have the access to her. And here's the thing. The quantum financial system has already been up and running.
Yes, it has.
And I have dozens upon dozens of people who have had all of their debts wiped out. And how is that happening? It's a really fun story. So let me tell you a little story. What happens is that I want you to think about like two systems going on at the same time: the SWIFT and the QFS, and they're going on at the same time. And here's what happens: they're testing, and so every once in a while the SWIFT system goes in, and then the QFS goes in and hits a piece of debt and just wipes it out. Now, once the SWIFT goes away, the QFS wipes the rest of the debts off. That's how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's almost like it's in a beta.
Yeah. Well, in a beta test point. Right.
Yeah, but it's been running side by side with it since 2020. And that's how the bankers have been being caught. Deutsche Bank and all of the major banks, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, you name Swiss, they all got caught for money laundering and everything else because they were interjecting quantum financial funds into the SWIFT system on purpose to see what they were going to do. And it's kind of like having a room full of bankers with a whole bunch of money sitting on the table and expecting them not to actually put some of it in their pocket when nobody's watching. But because in the past, you could never catch them doing that. But with the quantum financial system tracking every penny of it, that they all got caught and they got taken down, they got exposed. And that's why these stories were put out into the mainstream media of all of these banks getting caught for these specific actions that they did, right? Because that was showing you people that they were monitoring everything that had never been able to be monitored anymore in the past. The way that they had actually taken down Bitcoin, same thing, where these people were being paid ransoms in Bitcoin, and then they were able to track the sale of the Bitcoin through the quantum, even through the blockchain. The quantum has no problem with it. And that's how these individuals kept getting caught, because the quantum has everything. Knows everything. It cannot be manipulated and you cannot be cheated. And that's what they've been trying to show people of the level that it is and what we're going to be getting for everyone. And that kind of security is crazy. I mean, it really is.
And I didn't understand that when I first read the Nesara documentation. It said you'd have like financial privacy. I was like, what? How do you do that? QFS. It's total privacy.
Yes. And so, you know but they have also they have already signed the Internet Bill of Rights. That was something that Donald Trump signed. And it hasn't, it has not come out to the public yet as far as it goes, but I've got the original form for it and what they were actually passing. And It is to protect all of your information, all of who you are, and give you that same kind of sovereignty online that you never ever had in the past.
Watch out, spam. No more spam. No more
Nothing.
spam calls. No more. Like, do you know that post office sells your information left and right for money? You're not going to get any of that stuff. I mean, like your mailbox is going to like empty off.
That's
no
great.
more hacking into accounts. No more hacking.
Weird
into accounts. Yeah.
Do you know that I have been hacked on like 5 or 6 times since I started the Nesara stuff? Like they hack me left and right.
Yeah.
They hit me.
So back to like for beginners, what can you talk about the like it being a recovery act and where did the money come from? Like people in the questions want to know that where did the money come from?
Okay, well, it's real straight up with this. It's legal. So we have, the Executive Order 13818 that was done in November of 2017 after Trump was shot up along with the Prince of Saudi Arabia. And remember the October 1 of 2017 when he gave him his marching orders of what he had to do, tell the big tech and big corporations what they had to do. It was so cool. And he signed this little thing, and he was like, "We're going to take them all down. We're going to bankrupt we're going to bankrupt everyone." And so what happens is there's this thing called the Saint Germain Fund, and this puppy has and there's 11 different funds. We haven't even heard about all of them. Okay, and I don't really want to get off in all the other cuter funds with that. But basically, Saint Germain Funds is what I want you to worry about. It's got purportedly one with 45 zeros on it.
Yeah, it's a 40 quintillion, and there's 3 of them that I know of that have at least that are in the upper 40, 50 quintillion amounts of money involved in it. People can't even fathom. You can't even fathom the kind of money that is. That's just how much they even confiscated all the gold that was stolen.
Yeah,
that goes back all the way to, biblical days.
Right. That's what they did is they went through from 2017 on. Is they went through all the different places and went to the Vatican and went to all these different spots and ripped it out. And so that's how that in essence, and without getting out too much weird stuff with all the other things, that's how they're paying for this. So now the anti-cabal families have a ton of money that they're funding some of this stuff too, but don't worry about that stuff. Okay. Just realize that this Nesara Gesara stuff is being funded in essence by the cabal. Now, the other part of it is that they're not going to get paid back. Now you kind of say, well, wait a second. What about, aren't they, when you get bankruptcy, guess what happens in bankruptcy too? What about the Fed and the Fed bankers? What about their debts? Well, they don't get anything for it. Sucks to be you.
Zero.
Yeah, they get
nothing. Nothing. Yeah. Zero.
And here's what's going to happen. When I know that my own house is sitting on, it's with a little mortgage company, right? And I got a little note, and there's dozens of people told me the same thing. And I got a little note that it was sitting with, I'm blanking out the name. I'll remember it here in a minute, but it's sitting with a note that's basically on the Fed. Fannie Mae, sorry, that's what it was. It's with Fannie Mae, which means that my house is on the Fed officially. When the bankruptcy happens, because I legally own my house, who are on my house? What names? Well, the Fed gets wiped off, so who actually owns the house? So in some essence, a couple weeks after whatever, I'll get a little notation saying, your house is owned by Scotty. and that's what will happen. And people go, well, they're not going to steal my house. I'm like, calm down, guys. I'm not taking your house. Okay. It's yours. Okay. And so I'm going to tell you something. People are not going to like me for this. They're going to get all mad at me. Well, what about all the interest and all the other stuff back? Sorry, I'm going to be, and Kyle might disagree with me. This is Scott's information. I don't believe you're going to get the money back for that because all that stuff is fraudulent. Okay. I just don't believe that that's happening. I've looked at that. That's a fairness conversation. I just believe that, it's just wiped off because all that stuff is there, the silliness that's out there. I just think your debts get wiped off because this is just a bankruptcy point. It wipes them off the charts with that.
So, that's where, if you think about the different parts of this, right, that there has been both talk of that you will get the interest back because that was all basically illegal to begin with, right? Minus the actual purchase of whatever you are purchasing, because you actually purchased something. You got a house, you got a car, you got something, right? But everything that they stole over the top of that is potentially what is coming back to you. And I have heard that from several different people. But this is the whole point, is that we won't know until they actually do it and they put it out there for everyone to know, right?
And I know what you're saying there, but I would say I'm just going from a pure banking standpoint and from a pure bankruptcy issue. If you're talking about how it actually works, when a bank goes and takes something from Kyle, okay, because he goes to foreclosure. What happens is they're not going to get they don't care about the interest anymore. They get the asset. Okay. The interest is done. They're going to resell the house so they can restart the system. Okay. The asset is the thing out there. And I know that we're all mad about the interest in that way. And here's the thing I kind of go with. We're talking about it's not fair. And I go, because I've had these conversations, and I know truthers have brought this up with this, like, well, you're going to get all this interest back. Well, okay, let me throw out this one. If if we have two people, one person makes $30,000 a year, and she's had whatever level of houses that she's had over the years. Another person makes $100,000 a year. She's bought whatever houses and whatever debt points that have happened out there. Who has more potential of debt and debt forgiveness out there? No, the $100,000 person that's made all over the years. So who gets more interest back? Well, this person over here. Where's the fairness in there? I can't come up with a fair way of doing this. The reality is we're trying to cancel the cabal. And the cancellation is really what we're talking about here. So, I think that's why I say this from just a pure bankruptcy event. And when we look at it in the bankruptcy event,
I get that.
That's how I would put it.
But the only thing but the way that I kind of have talked to individuals specifically about this is that all of the federal banking, all of the contracts, they were all illegal, and everything that you've ever spent in it, all of it was all a fraudulent contract. And with fraud vigilates everything. And so basically, yes, there are people that have paid their houses off, and there's people that have, it's all perspective in that level of individual, whether you're at it. If that person only makes $50,000 a year, or if that person makes $5 million a year, it is perspective within that person's reality, right? No matter what it is. And the same amount of money is just as important to that individual at that level as it is the person with 5 million. So you can never say that this person is more or this person is less, because in their reality, it may be more for the individual that has less than it is to the person that has more. That's why it was always the woman that gave of nothing was so much more valued of God than the ones that gave in their abundance that she gave in her lack. And that was where God always pointed us to lack. That's right, exactly.
I mean, I had a lady who, and I have ability for people to donate on my website. This woman, she wrote this little note after she gave me $5, and I was in tears after this. She's like, I only have $5 to give you. I just loved all your videos, and that's all I can do. I can try to give you more later on. And I'm just like, I'm blubbering. And, I wrote her a note back, and I just, gave her so many scriptures, and I just thanked her for that. And that's all I'm thinking about. And I guess so many times we're so like, Twitter baited here about, interest and stuff like that. I'm just going, guys, I just want to lower your expectations. There's an old series on whatever, I can't remember, it's an old comedy series of like lowered expectations, and it was the whole, it was a dating show kind of thing. And I guess that's what I kind of try to do with you. So, don't have your hopes up so high, and you kind of go, I'm pretty sure that the debt expectation is going to be down, but I can tell you, man, the gold-backed currency is going to drop. When you have gold-backed currency, 1-to-1 ratio, the pricing is going to fall like a rock. I mean,
yeah, because you've got a dollar that's worth about 16 cents right now. And so when a dollar becomes a dollar, it's a totally different world. And it really is going to be that way.
It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it is. And the things that people have that will be a part of that, which is your birth certificate, your QV trust, those things that are out there that you're not really familiar with, those things are actually yours, and they've always been yours, but they've been actually controlling them as your beneficiary. Because why? Because they had you as dead. And when you come back alive, those things are actually there. Those interests that they collected on that, they were very good at what they did. They got anywhere from 40 to 42% on the value of what they had been putting out there for you since your birth. I know for myself that I've found, I think 5 bonds that are mine that have actually been matured. They're a sick amount of money, and you're going to freak out when this happens. So don't worry about these small little details. The deals that are going to happen for you is going to blow you away. It's going to blow you the heck away. It really is.
And I think really we need to focus on, I would say this, man, focus on, instead of like focusing on, what you're going to get or what you're not going to get, or, what's going to happen around you. Man, there's people like next door neighbors that you need to focus on and what you can help them with. And, what can you do? And their car's broken down, and, can you help them get to work? Can you, maybe help them, fix the motor or whatever? Let's focus on. We just haven't done that enough.
No, and that's one of the things that I've told many people is that I am so glad that this is delayed as long as it has, so that people's attention has been changed to more helping people, got a different perspective on this whole thing, and that it means something completely different now than it did, 2-3 years ago. And I'm even talking with the RV and with the like the currencies and all that kind of stuff, right? And the humanitarian projects, everything else, right? It was always based upon money. It really was. And now it's really starting to change everybody's perspective that it's about rebuilding the world. It's about rebuilding society, and the humanitarian projects are just that, to rebuild society that they had destroyed from us our entire existence. So nobody has ever known being free. It's all been a false reality.
Right.
And we will be in recovery. That's where we're heading now, and we need something to recover from. And that's why you feel that boot on your neck.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So you want to take a couple of questions, and then after we finish a couple of questions, then we'll wrap it up for the night. And it's always great talking with you, Dr.
I love it.
Alrighty. Hi, Kyle and Scott. I remember reading that before Nesara can start, all world military conflicts must cease. With our military still deployed all over the world, Russia and Ukraine, etc., I'm guessing Nesara is months or even years away. Please discuss this piece of the Nesara law and your thoughts on that.
I'll say it briefly. I would say what you think you know about where things are happening is not exactly what's happening. I'm going to tell you, there's so much CGI, and I know Kyle gets this, but I get this, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I just did like little bitty things of the idiot's inauguration thing. There's CGI everywhere there. There's actors everywhere. What you think is happening in Ukraine might not even be happening. I know we want to call the EBS like a false flag in the event. I call it, the Scott word is a fake false flag. I don't think it's going to be a real false flag. I think what you're going to see is what happened months and months and months ago. So
I say this so much. I tell you that I have told people that things are months and months and months in the past. And if you think you know about it now, it's because it was over a long time ago and they're only allowing you to know about it now. This is over, people. It really is. And they're just a way that they're presenting it to the world so that the best possible outcome for humanity can be from this. It is, you go watch Wag the Dog, and I've shown you how, I've shown you how easy it is to be able to manipulate you. Why do you think that they had the deep fakes of Tom Cruise come out, all that kind of stuff? Because they wanted to show you just how easy it is for that CGI technology to be able to fool anyone, anytime, anywhere. And you would think that you are seeing what you're seeing. You are absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, my son, I always use this example. My son had this little button. It was a red button from like Office Max or something like that. And it was this button. It was like, that was easy. And it was this dumb button that it would make me nuts, and you would push it all the time. And it was like, it was from the commercials. And I think Joe Biden walks around with that button. He thinks that's the nuclear code. And, and I'm like, that's, and that's who we think, that's who we think is the beast system. And I'm like, he's the oops, I crap my pants guy. I mean, guys, these guys don't have any ability. The first thing that you do in game theory is knock out the people that you really want to knock out.
And they were knocked out a long time ago, actually.
Yeah,
the top of this chain was taken down a long time ago. And basically through the middle part of this, they took out all the middle people. And where they're at right now, they're cleaning up the very bottom end of everything. And that's it.
Wait till you see this one. Can I tell you a real cool thing that's going to happen? Okay. So after everything's coming out, let's say Kelly, and I can't believe I'm going to bring you up again on this one, but Kelly's got, $8,000 in cash. So Kelly goes to the bank and she's a little bit scared. So she shoves it in her purse. And she goes in the bank and she just wants to change it out to the U.S. Treasury note. And they're like, and she fills out some paperwork. It's called a client information sheet. Fills it out, and they like ask her like, "Why'd you have it?" Well, I just kind of always shoved it under my pillow. She's like, they're like, okay, and just flip her out, no problem. Now, Kyle, he has always been the druggie. He's kind of the petty drug dude, okay. And so he's really been the druggy guy that we've always been worried about, but no one really does it. He's got like a couple $1 million like stuffed around this couple houses, but he really doesn't know how to get there to the bank because he's always been in cash. Okay. So he's got a criminal record. So he brings, his cousin Scott. So Scott gets his little tie on, and he comes in with a client information sheet, and he passes through the thing. And then they ask him with $1 million, Scott, how come you have $1 million? Like, my aunt had, and I can't answer it, right? So they arrest me. And there's DEA agents right there at the bank. And then after a while, Kyle can't figure out where's his money. And then after a while, he finally goes, and he's really desperate because he's real near the end of when the US dollar can't even go anymore. And he can't find any place where he's going to do it. And so what's going to happen is that he's going to finally go to the bank, and then he's going to get arrested. So at the very end of this is all going to happen. And by the way, there's a TV series called Mr. Robot. This actually occurred in a cabal way in Mr. Robot season 4, episode 9. They took all of their money, and those guys had nothing left. This is coming, and they'll got nothing left. It's going to be so much fun. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad I wasn't the bad guy this time.
Oh, I know. You're a good one.
Okay, next question. Is it true that white hats have now taken over CBDC? That there are 2 new digital systems was really confusing and scary.
Well, yeah. So the original CBDC was the central banking system that they were going to use under the reset for the control of all the population. And you weren't going to be able to buy or sell unless they did exactly what you were told to do. Right. But the CBDC under the quantum financial system is decentralized. And the reason that it's being used under the name itself is for the familiarity to the name, so that people that do not know what's going on are going to be comfortable with that banking transaction. That's all it is.
Yep, that's all it is. Exactly. You said it perfect.
Okay, and now that people are asking about taxes, can you talk a little bit about taxes, home taxes, property taxes, income taxes?
So IRS taxation is dead. There will be a sales tax, and that's been very clearly dealt with in the Nesara stuff. Do not call it a flat tax. It's called a sales tax. That is definitely a use tax in the Constitution. Yeah. I believe it's a 14% sales tax, a national sales tax. Hey, man, if you have you want to buy a new car, great. You have the ability to buy it. So, but it's not going to be for any.
But it's a one-time thing. It's a one-time thing.
But it's not for a used car. So no
That's
used
correct.
car, no used house. It's not going to be for food and not be for medications. So you're good. But if you have the ability to buy a new house, a new car, go for it, man. And it's no problem, right? So it is the most fair tax in the history of the world. That's why we want that kind of stuff. Now,
and it goes to the Treasury, not to the IRS and not to the central banking system. That all of the taxes that you ever paid never went to this country.
Here's what happens. Now, I'm a business owner. Okay, so I have to collect sales tax. So here's what happens. Patients pay me. I take that sales tax and I have to pay it to the state. Okay, so they could utilize the IRS and call it something else, and they could have that, and it would just directly go to to the Treasury, and that would just pay all the national stuff. Now,
so I did hear that they were going to still be in operation, but for that specific purpose, for business taxes as well as for sales taxes, and that's it.
Right. So excise taxes and other things like that, export, import, anything like that. That's fine with that. Now, remember, there's not going to be income tax on a state level either. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
So we don't have to do that because that's all cabal stuff. Sales tax drives state budgets. So that has to stay. Now, property tax is a state issue. You guys are going to have to get out there and kick the butt of the state and House Senates. Okay, that's your job. Now, let me tell you some interesting thing. Vancouver, Washington, Portland, Oregon. They're separated by a river, okay? And there's a little road with it. You live in Vancouver and you shop in Portland. Here's why. Vancouver, there is no property tax. In Portland, there's no sales tax. Okay, this is how it works. Okay, so the reality is, and by the way, every state needs sales tax, but we don't need property tax because that's a sick part of the tax system. But it's going to be a state problem, and it's going to be a little while in the future. Okay, each state's got to do that.
Okay, next question is for Kyle. Is it possible Nesara Gesara already happened, just not on my timeline because I wasn't a frequency match yet?
So, no. So we are actually on a timeline that is the highest timeline right now. And what we are coming to is that moment in which it's being actually implemented publicly. It has been done privately in the background. That's what's actually driving all this. It just hasn't been released to the public yet. So don't concern yourself with that you might have missed it. It didn't happen. This has happened already, people. It's being brought to the public's awareness as the White Hats know that it will bring the very best of all humanity together.
I'll say it in a weird, really strange way. I mean, you're going to be freaking when I say this, but 6 times in the New Testament, it says before the foundation of the earth. It in essence, what that means is that that Jesus was sacrificed on the cross before the foundation, before anything ever happened. Okay, meaning that it had to have a earthly event, but it was always slated to be. Okay, yeah. And when you understand that the Bethlehem star had to happen, but it had to be set from the foundation of the earth. That's what we're dealing with right here. Okay. Yeah. This has to happen. We're just waiting for it to occur. God's not sitting up there in the earth going, in the heaven going, you know what? I'm really upset about this once. No one sent me the memo.
You know, I say that all the time. Nothing has caught God off guard. All of this was planned before he ever said, let there be. Yep. Everything, all. That is, everything was completed before. That is a part of being the Alpha and the Omega. And when you were living in the now, that's what we're at right now. We're not in that part of the actual event of it taking place, but it has already happened and it is already fulfilled, just as he was explaining. So when God tells me something, it's always, all right, he says it, but now I got to go, okay, I got to catch up to when it was actually happening. But in God, it has already happened. He's saying it as it's happening right then. And because God is in the now moment. And we will learn that as we come into our higher density, and that we will begin to operate in that now moment. But right now we're just learning to develop that.
And you know, you're very powerful in what you say. I mean, what you say creates reality. I mean, Jesus. Well, I mean, the Father created the world not by hammer and nails, but by what He spoke in existence. That's right. It's a very unique way of creating things. Okay,
through frequency.
And that's it's exactly through frequency points. And I'm an audiologist, so frequency is my bailiwick. Okay, and I'm going to tell you guys that you got to see that point. I get up at 3 and 4 and 5 in the morning just to be and I turn off all the lights. I have my little gas log fireplace to turn on, and I sit there and I'm in quiet because I just want to get in that frequency point there. One of the key elements that we have been missing, by the way, we've been missing this in the church, and we've been missing this actually in music for a very, very long time, is harmony. Fundamental frequency, the thing called a harmony, is the thing that sounds good on top of it. And when you have these harmonies that go on top of it, there's these gorgeous things. And so when you see, there was a time where, I'm a singer as well. And you don't hear it because my voice is so torn up with being sick here and getting over this here. But when, and I'm not trying to exclude women here, but when men harmonize, something happens in the spiritual realm. And when we harmonize and we hear that, it actually changes things in the spiritual realm. And so really we need to be doing that. And when you speak out things of unfaith, like, it's not going to happen, Trump's never coming back, blah, 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 and you're freaking out, just like calm down a little bit. Take it down a notch. Sometimes I want to think that stuff too, but I don't speak it. It's different.
It says, take your thoughts captive.
Right.
And I tell Kelly, and I've told her this so much, is that when you speak out, those words go out into the universe. Those frequency goes out. And God says, my word does not come back to me void, and neither does yours. And that's why it is so important for you to guard your tongue on creating your reality.
Correct.
Christ said that you are going to do greater things than he did.
Amen.
Is he a liar? He is not. And that is the whole thing. Are we actually seeing ourselves doing those things in which he did? Walking on water. Well, how did he do that, right? He was in control of his surroundings to the point that all the control with frequency, he mastered. He was in complete control of his surroundings. These are the things that we are going to learn and we're moving towards, is understanding what he meant by being able to do those things in which he said we were going to do, right? And, when I tell Kelly a lot, I tell her that when we talk about something or we pray on something, do we have the expectation it is done? That's what he told us to do. Just like I say that to this mountain be removed and it is cast into the sea and it is there, right? Do you truly believe that? It says if you have only the faith of a mustard seed, and what does that take? Nothing. But you don't trust it like you trust this chair that you plop your butt down into. That is not faith. That is expectation. Faith is that same expectation and not having any doubt whatsoever.
Correct.
And are people speaking that way?
And Kyle and I both have zero unfaith in Nesara Gesara.
That's right. Guaranteed.
It's a guarantee. It's not, we're just waiting for the win.
It's not when, it is that it's going to happen. And I have no idea when it's going to happen forever. It could be tomorrow. It could be like 2 days from now. It could be whenever. I know that it's happened. It's just a matter of when it's going to be released to the world.
Right.
Plain and simple. That's where we're at.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Okay. How will debt forgiveness be a level benefit if someone owes on a new house and has several maxed out credit cards versus someone who owes nothing and has struggled all their lives to pay their debt off?
Yeah, I understand. Here's the thing. This is a one-time event. I just realized this. Okay, what you're struggling with right there, and I appreciate your circumstance here. I had the same conversation. The very first time I had this is this one guy was like really struggling. I live within my means, and I'm like, okay, and I said, so what you're talking about is not fair. And I was like, he goes, yeah. And I said, is God fair or is God just? He goes, what's the difference? I was like, and I'm like, God is just. We're going to bring some justice to the world. It's not going to be fair. I'm sorry. I'm going to give you a little story and it's not going to fully answer your question. You remember I was talking about World War II? And I want you to think about a farmer who is a little bit inland of the coast, in Normandy. And he lives through 1941, where the Germans take over and they basically destroy him in many ways. And then he's waiting for his liberation. He hears about them coming through. They come through Normandy in 44. He comes all the way through him, and then they go through the hedgerows, and they come up against his farm, and then the Germans decide to take over his farm. And they're pot-shotting each other, and they're shooting, and they can mortar his house. They destroy his house, and they finally, they kill some of his people, his family, and they walk through, and he's sitting there with a little American flag going, "Hey, thanks, guys." And then they move on. And this happened many times, over and over again. And he's got, tears of joy. At least he's been liberated. Guys, that's what I want you to focus on. You're so focused on this other stuff. Now, if you've lived without debt, you are way ahead of the game, because this isn't coming back again where they're going to get like another debt forgiveness like 5 years from now, some new bankruptcy thing, and they're out of this thing. We need to teach people how to live within their means, okay? They cannot go out there and get back into debt and do this other thing and buy a whole bunch of crap again, okay? They need to learn to live within their means, and you might be that same person to teach that kind of process again in them. So think about that just a little bit. So that's just the way I might answer it.
Yeah, it's all about perspective too. And, there will be focus on those people that actually lived within their means, and that there will be there is a justification for that. So you don't know about it yet, but it's going to be okay. So just go about your business and focus on, like he said, it's about the liberation, but there is going to be a benefit to that as well.
Okay, I think this is a good question to end on. If illegals have to return to their birthplace to receive their monies, what's stopping them from returning back to the U.S. after a period of time? So maybe we can go into the whole Recovery Act and humanitarian part of this that involves the rebuilding of all their countries, which is the reason, in my opinion, they wouldn't come back.
So yeah, so as far as the Nesara and Gesara, yes, for them to actually take part in the monies that is available to them, that is to be spent in their country within rebuilding their own economic structure where they live. There's no purpose for them to come back, because the reason they came here to begin with is because they didn't have that ability to do that at home. Their families are at home. Their whole world is at home. They're in a country that is not their home country. Mostly these people, they work here, they send money home. And if they have the opportunities to rebuild and to have all those finances within their own country, they're going to want to go home. Now, as far as coming back, there's going to be a freedom for people to move around the world very easily, because the passport and all the stuff in which they control the freedom of movement is going to go away, people, whether you realize it or not. Borders are not going to be the way that they are. And those economic benefits that are entitled to an individual is because of their development that they're doing within their own country. Now, are they going to want to spend some of that money or some of that time wherever they go within the world? Absolutely.
Sure.
That's a part of building the economies of the entire world.
Right.
So,
but why would they want to come back? I mean, if they want to visit, cool. I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, if you lived in Honduras and you came here, and you were living in Texas for whatever reason, and you were just trying to make why would you want to? I mean, first off, you'd want to go back with all your family and all your friends and your grandkids and everything. Why would you want to come back to America? And I've heard that question a lot. I just go, I don't know why they would. I mean, here's the point. One of the keys, and this is the hardest part of this, is to make sure that we balance the amounts out here, because we don't want Honduras to be at a real unlevel point. I don't even have a great word for that from America.
Leveling the playing field, like
Yeah, we
Trump
need
said.
to level them. No, they're not going to be exactly the same because America's got way more GDP and a whole bunch of other things. But they can't be like, they can be like kissing sisters in essence. Okay, maybe that's not a perfect example, but they need to be able to be like, friends with one another. But they don't need to be like, we're going down there to stamp on them. And that's what the CIA has done to them. We walked in there and we brought in democracy. Well, that's not what the Constitution talks about. Every time they talk about democracy, that's actually bringing in communism.
And they pilfered these countries. They
Yeah.
have a lot of their own resources that have been stolen from them.
Right. And so, but they're not going to want to come back unless they're going to go see the Alamo. Great.
Yeah, and come visit and then leave, because these individuals came here for a economic advantage that they didn't have at home. Now, if they have that economic advantage at home, there's no reason for them to want to be somewhere other than their home country.
Exactly.
Plain and simple. All right. Well, with that, it was an honor having you here, Dr. Scott. I want to have you come back again, and we'll do this. I think we'll do this quite a few more times, actually. So I'm really looking forward to the things that are coming. We have so much to look forward to, and we are living in the most exciting time in all of history, in my opinion. We have to think about all of our grandparents and their grandparents all believing that this was the time. We're in that time that they wish they were here for. And we're going to live through that. And we're all participating in it. That's what is such an incredible honor, to be a participant in what God is doing right now.
Exactly. I love it. You guys have a blast, okay?
Well, you too. Scott. And we'll talk to you soon, all right?
All right. We'll see you.
Bye. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.